The period of the Saxon invasions of Britain traditionally follows on from the Roman abandonment of the province of Britannia. This in itself is a complicated and much debated issue, but it has traditionally been placed in the early 5th century, perhaps around AD 410. We'll have much more to say about it later. I say province, but Britannia in the late 4th and early 5th century was actually 4 or 5 provinces: Britannia Prima, Britannia Secunda, Maxima Caesariensis, Flavia Caesariensis, and Valentia. This last province was created in the 360s. Britain was a single province for much of its Roman occupation, but in the late 2nd and then again in the 3rd century, Britannia was intimately involved in several breakaway empires from Rome, especially the Revolt of 185, where Legio VI Victrix promoted a legate, Priscus, to emperor. This was suppressed by Pertinax. Clodius Albinus, 193 to 197, the Empire of Postumus, 260 to 269, and then the Empire of Carausius, 286 to 293, and Electus, 293 to 296, who had assassinated Carausius. These 3rd century revolts were part of the empire-wide disruptions, which were once collectively known as the 3rd century crisis. That term is out of favor today, and historians have argued that there was no real crisis, merely disturbances. After the stability of the good emperors, Trajan, 98 to 117, Hadrian, 117 to 138, Antoninus Pius, 138 to 161, and Marcus Aurelius, 161 to 180. However, the entire Roman Empire did indeed face disruptions and breakaway empires for most of the 3rd century. Britain was always an attractive partner for any breakaway empire, because it had a garrison of 3 legions who could provide troops for any usurper. It was also on the edge of the empire, across a sea, and far away from any response. In the aftermath of the defeat of Albinus, in what are known as the Severan Reforms, but which were possibly begun later under the Emperor Caracalla, rather than his father Septimius Severus, Britain was divided into 2 provinces: Britannia Prima, centered on Londinium, London, and Britannia Secunda, centered on Eboracum, York. These reforms either date to circa 197 or, under Caracalla, to circa 212 to 217. Caracalla is regarded as one of the great bad emperors of Roman history, and many scholars have been unwilling to credit him with reforms of any value. This is peculiar, since it was under Caracalla that the Constitutio Antoniniana was passed, probably in 212. A law granting Roman citizenship to all free inhabitants of the empire. Several of our sources refuse to credit him with this reform at all, and others interpret it as a cynical ploy by him to raise more tax revenue. This law had important ramifications for late Roman Britain. It is therefore entirely possible that Caracalla split the province of Britain into 2, probably as a measure arising from their siding with Clodius Albinus. A split Britain would be less likely to support a usurper, or at least that may have been the thinking. The actual boundary between these 2 provinces, and also those of the later divisions of the British provinces into 4 and then 5, remains unclear. You will find several maps which show the boundaries between these provinces, but they are all highly speculative.